Right, Vikas, let's do that. So we are now moving into what is the last session of the day for the first day of the conference. I just need to see that I just need to spot the moderator, Mr. Pandey, on the screen, which I am not at present. Yes, I spot you, sir. Thank you so much. And I also need to confirm that the speaker, yes, so everybody is right there. Absolutely wonderful. This one promises to be, oh, but I shouldn't be talking about that. So we are now 2 minutes short of our promised start. And the next moderator, the moderator for the next session is Mr. Manoj Pandey. Mr. Manoj Pandey is a career railway person who somewhere in his 37-year-long stint with the Indian Railways as a personnel officer developed a passion for railway history. Living in railway towns in all parts of the country, Jhansi, Bhopal, Bhusawal, Varanasi, Bhagalpur, Bhavnagar, Jabalpur, Sikandrabad and Kolkata, with this long journey with the railways culminating as the head of the HR organization of the largest employer in India when he was a member of the board. Mr. Pandey has looked at multiple universities, libraries, and museums in his pursuit of railway history and heritage. And a lot of that research has actually culminated in several very well-written articles, many of which have actually featured in our society's magazine. And there are many a book hidden in Mr. Pandey, and I sincerely hope that he will use this opportunity that RES is now creating for publishing books to publish with us soon. He is a foundation for our society, a member of the Rail Enthusiast Society. His knowledge prompted Dolling Kindersley to request him to be consultant to the book that DK has published on Indian Railways in 2020. I hand over now to Manoj Pandey, sir, to take the session forward.
Just a minute. There is some. Start.
Yeah, you are there. Fine. Carry on.
I can carry on, sir? Okay.
Please carry on.
Good evening. And at the end of this lovely day in which one heard a lot about the rail efforts by the railway enthusiasts all over the country, technical, non-technical, and setting up of railway museums, it is my privilege to present my very old colleague and a senior colleague, Ragini Yechury. Well, maybe 38 years back, it was a privilege to be the first lady to be inducted as the officer of the Indian Railways Personnel Service. She has held very challenging assignments everywhere, two of which have been really wonderful. She headed the training establishment of the Indian Railways, where she devised the complete structure for the Indian and foreign training of the railway officers and the railway staff. And as you would know, being a largest employer of the country, we also have very powerful trade unions. And Ragini has been handling them with her persuasion and her, what you can say, perseverance and her wonderful powers at negotiation to convince them that many of their demands are not genuine, while at the same time agreeing to many of their demands which were of the eventual good of the employees. As far as the topic is concerned, the railway, we use the word railway men, but I think this will be a misnomer in times to come. Slowly and slowly, women are joining the mainstream. There was never a glass ceiling. It was just that the railway work was supposed to be very men for men. But today we have locomotive drivers, we have all kind of employees everywhere, including in the Railway Protection Force. I would now request Ragini to tell about this journey and how the women have transformed the working of the Indian Railways. Over to you, Ragini.
Thank you, Manoj, for the kind words. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the rail enthusiasts and the participants across the globe. It is indeed a privilege to partake in this conference with the galaxy of experts present at this forum to share their passions and experiences. The railways traditionally, as mentioned by Manoj also, a male-dominated organization, was associated with heavy lifting and intensive long hours of work. However, with automation and advanced technology, coupled with the initiatives taken by the government of India, gender diversity on Indian railways got a conscious push, bringing a new equilibrium on where we work in the industry. It is being increasingly realized that a gender-balanced team offers better work results and provides a new perception to the business. A number of studies have been conducted to understand why we need women at the workplace and what it does to their profit margins. This study, which I am showing, is by McKinsey. And they've said that investment in initiatives that support women in the workplace can create a win-win situation that brings real gains for employers and employees alike. This applies to business operating in emerging economies as well as in high-income economies. Then they realized that investing in programs targeting women in emerging and developing markets found that at least 1/3 had measured improved profits and a further 38% were expecting returns. Then this is another study and where Cyrus Mistry has quoted in their annual report that when women are insufficiently represented in the workplace, we lose out on 50% of the talent pool. In an environment where human capital makes all the difference between success and failure, this is a massive loss which countries and corporates can ill afford. Women bring rich and diverse perspectives to the workplace. Often they bring management styles which are quite complementary to those of men. Workplaces that celebrate women naturally benefits from better decisions as a result of such diversity. That alone is reason enough for every company to put this topic at the forefront of its business and human resources agenda. So on the railways, we are about 13 lakh employees, of which 1 lakh are women. So the boys' club image is gradually fading away. The railways are traditionally a male-dominated organization, and so with this gender diversity being promoted, and empowering lady officers in frontline and field duties is one of the committed endeavors of Indian Railways. As an employer, Indian Railways has a workforce that employs a significant number of women as officers and staff in the technical and non-technical category. Women empowerment has perhaps been the most defining movement in the 20th century. And they have been able to make a mark in this male-dominated roles, and the numbers are increasing with each passing day or year, I should say. Then we have Surekha Yadav, a female loco pilot. She's a train driver, and since 1988, she has been working on the Indian Railways as a loco pilot. We then have Dhaumya and Sumita, and working as railway mechanics. Then we have women in the control office and station masters, the Smita Biswas. So what I'm trying to imply is that people from all regions, all over the country, women have been taking actively a part in the running of the railways. I'll just...
Kumkum Dongre and Udita Verma. They were part of the first goods train with only female crew members, which was a first for the Western Railway's Mumbai division. Along with Akanksha Rai as the goods guard, Kumkum Dongre served as the loco pilot, and Udita Verma took charge as the assistant loco pilot.
एज ए एम्प्लॉयज़ होते हैं हम वहाँ पे ना महिला होती है ना जेंट्स होते हैं सभी एज ए एम्प्लॉयज़ ट्रीट करते हैं और सभी बड़े आदर देते हैं पूरी तरह से कभी ऐसे ट्रीट नहीं होने दिया कि लड़की है या महिला है तो किसी अनादर तरीके से अपमान किया हो या कोई ऐसी बातें सब मिलकर पूरा सपोर्ट करते हैं मुझे कुछ चैलेंजिंग जॉब भी करना था चैलेंज को फेस करना था तो मैंने इस जॉब को चूज़ किया और इसमें मुझे चैलेंज भी फेस किए और सारे रेलवे परिवार का साथ मिला
Kumkum Dongre and Udita Verma.
We have this girl working on South Central Railway for the past 1.5 years at this station called Ramavparadu. I'm sorry, I haven't got the pronunciation right, much I've tried. Then we have women in charge of the goods train, which is even more challenging because they've been running without a timetable so far. So here's this girl, this whole crew, Akanksha Ray, she's piloted the goods guards. Then she was joined by Kumkum Nagendra, who has served as a loco pilot, and Udita Verma as assistant loco pilot of the train. So we have entirely a women-powered team on taking over the goods train also. Jaipur station was the first station to become fully operated by women. And that was, again, I think, a very challenging task because all tasks assigned in every sphere of activity at a station was given to the women. And it's a major tourist hub. So keeping the image of the organization intact, these women performed outstanding duties. Then we have these female engineers who are, working on various parts of the organization, the technical part. We have the maintenance team. They are ensuring passenger safety. So, and they're working independently of all the men. Then besides in the railways, we have doctors, cooks, nursing sisters, where again, that's an aberration. We have men also now included as nursing staff. So and this is Manoj who reminded me that yes, men are also being recruited as part of nursing staff. So we have, the railways is a mini India. And in every field, we have women working and working to keep the image of the organization glowing. We have various medical categories for all staff who are working on the railways. So the drivers, you need a particular level of health and eyesight and so on and so forth. So for that, we need a very strong medical department to support. And besides supporting the 13 lakh employees and their families. So we have a whole lot of health units all over at various stations and close to railway colonies, looking after the health and majority of them are lady doctors. Then we have all these camps where polio drops and all are given even in trains. So there again, where we conduct all these activities. We recruit people in the cultural quota also. So we have people who are genuinely talented at a national level with music, dance, and drama. And so we have, and besides doing their professional duties, they're recruited on those grounds. So we have here a lady, Mrs. Wali. She's a ticket checker, and she's multilingual, and she entertains the tourists with her singing. The railways have the Railway Protection Force to safeguard the property of the railways. So every year, periodically, we recruit 10,500 RPF Jawans, of which 500, 50% is the women power. So because to keep safeguarding the railway coaches and various, with the growing number of women in the organization, they realized that we need more RPF women also. So, and for children who are lost in the trains, so various needs were felt that we need to empower, we need to have more RPF staff. Then to encourage people to apply for railway jobs, we give a complete refund of the entrance fees that they pay to apply, but when they appear for the exam, that fee is refunded to the women. So all women get a complete refund of their entrance fees. So this is just to encourage more women joining the organization. Then to encourage vendors, and so that people can enjoy, the traveling public can enjoy the local cuisine. We have a lot of e-catering, and these women, it's also encourages them to, and when people enjoy their food, and also adds to their livelihood. We have a huge sports academy. A lot of recruitment is done in this field to encourage sports. And of course, what I'm trying to say is that in every field that we recruit, they all do the job of functioning and working in the railways, in addition to the sports that they do. So this is the Kabaddi team, which we recruited and which are the national champions. Then we have cricket and hockey, again, where it's 80 or 90% is the railway team, and for the national team playing international sport. And then we have volleyball, and the juniors and the seniors, and we are the champions over there also. And of course, PT Usha, the golden girl, the one who's got 101 international medals. She is an officer on Southern Railway, working and still adding to the charm of the organization. Since the 80s more so, we've had a lot of officers joining the organization in various fields which was strictly male dominated. We have this Jaya Johan. She was the first woman officer of the 84 batch. She's just retired. This is Kalavati, again from signaling and telecom, and she's inspecting, and again the first lady. I am grateful to Mr. J.L. Singh for having, done all the research work in this field and helped us. Then Kalyani, of course, she's an 88 batch and an excellent officer, outstanding officer, and with a human touch to everything and anything that has to be done which needs a feminine touch also, in addition to the proficiency. Kalyani is the answer. We have Manjul Gupta. she's just again retired as an additional member, again joined in the 80s, and in an electrical engineer, and very simple and straight, and yet a very professional person. Mrs. Padmakshi Raheja was the first, probably amongst all the other services, where 74 batch, she joined the traffic service, and she's again headed the operating and the commercial, and made a mark for herself. The last bastion to be conquered, I think, was the civil engineering, where Mona Srivastav, again a very brilliant and hardworking girl, and she's really doing wonders. She doesn't hesitate to walk onto a track for any number of kilometers, or even where she's trying to show some land for some purpose. We have the first these days a serving CMD IRCTC, Ragini Hasija. She's the first woman who's heading this Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation. Huge corporation looking after all the reservations and all the other activities. And she was she's doing a great job, and I'm very, very proud of her. We had requested Ratan Tata. What I'm trying to bring out is that this organization doesn't hesitate to appoint women or to nominate for any committee, no matter how great it may be. The minister thought that we could appoint a Kaya Kalp committee involving Mr. Ratan Tata and both the union heads. And I was very surprised that I was also part of that committee. And quite a few very useful ideas came out, and both the unions also discussed issues very rationally and explained to Mr. Tata. And then Mr. Tata appreciated all that we do. And in fact, he said, I think the Railways is the largest philanthropic organization that I have ever seen. So then again, welfare of the staff and empowerment of women is a very major activity on the railways. And that's how we are able to retain the women force. So we have a whole lot of facilities, and like we have creches in workplace or close to the railway colonies. And they take care of the children 6 days a week, and really look after, and supported by Mahila Samiti. And Mahila Samiti is doing a great work. This is the organization that is supported by officers' wives, those who are not working elsewhere full-time. So they do a lot of social work, and they are able to devote so much attention. They take it in turns to go visit the creche so that the children are not neglected by the staff, and attention is given to what they're eating, what they are playing, what nursery rhymes they are learning. Then we have, even when there are floods or any calamity, the Mahila Samiti also organizes kitchens and collects money and provides utensils, clothes, and other needy things to the staff, to the people who are affected and families affected. Like the Vizag cyclone, the Mahila Samiti did a phenomenal job there of providing good food and utensils, despite the lack of communication those days. And the airlines couldn't start, the radio station didn't start, but the railways were running within 24 hours of the cyclone hitting. And there was Mahila Samiti also supporting the railway staff, which I think is was a huge, we work like a family, we work like one, and that's why I suppose, we are all taken care of. And then we have handicraft sectors, which, guards and drivers, they all get uniform. So we have these centers where we teach stitching, and they then stitch the uniforms required for our staff. So we get, with the ladies are not only earn, and we train them, and also they don't have to sit in that workplace. If they are required, if they need to go home, they are allowed to work from home and come and give the garment the next day. So stitching, weaving, then the Mahila Samitis also organized computer classes, just to make sure that, the children of our staff are groomed with the latest techniques and technology required for them to find a living earlier, and also skills. Then they conduct workshops on health issues. There's this program called Suno Saheli, and where they counsel the women railway employees, the spouses of the male employees, the children, whosoever needs some guidance and advice, they are able to organize, and the doctors, coupled with the wives, are conducting these camps. Then we have, besides all that we do for ourselves, we do something for the railway women passengers also. There's a separate priority which we give them, and like we have a ladies' quota in the reservation. So then there's a special seat reserved for pregnant women. At times, because otherwise, to avoid any kind of inconvenience, we make sure that the pregnant women who are probably going at an advanced stage to their parents' home, they are given a seat. Then we have separate counters, coaches, toilets, waiting room for women passengers. There's a helpline also, in case they feel harassed or they need some help. So 182, it runs 24/7, and so they are able to reach out to the security staff. Then the railways have also decided that the unutilized berths in trains under the ladies' quota is given first to women passengers on the waiting list, and then to senior citizens also, which I thought was, again, well, a little more consideration. Then it's for the women to decide whether the senior citizen needs it more or the lady. So again, what I'm saying is that we take care of our lady employees and also the traveling public. So because of our sensitivity towards these people, the attrition rate in the railways is almost negligible. And that so-called glass ceiling is not felt to reach leadership roles on Indian railways. If you can become board members, we have had innumerous financial commissioners. We have people in all walks of life if they're otherwise eligible. We have this pink band coaches. In pink color, these women passengers easily identify their coach from a distance, so they can hop onto them. So the wheels of change have started moving. So let us all get together to facilitate this process of gender smart solutions. That is, solutions that achieve overall business objectives of a client while closing relevant gender gaps in the process. Thank you. Before I conclude, I would like to place on record my grateful thanks to Shri Vinu Mathur, who offered this opportunity to me. Mr. J.L. Singh's book has been like a Bible to me. Mr. Anand Khati, Vinita Srivastava, and Mr. Rao from the Heritage Directorate of the Railway Board, Archana Dubey, and of course my family for extending all support and guidance in collection of material for me to sift and make this presentation today. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ragini. I think I'll have to. Okay. Thank you very much, Ragini, for this lovely lecture and lovely informative speech on about the women status in the Indian Railways. I'd just like to add a few things before I take on the points made by Mr. Raghunandan and some others. One is that when the women joined the workforce in different levels, the railways had to make a very few minor adjustments. For example, in our training schools, we had to provide for separate hostels. That was about all. Messing is common, training is common, only the separate hostels were required. Similarly, in the work spots, there were separate toilets and washrooms, and maybe some other lunchroom or a place where they could keep their personal material. That was required to be done. It had been done in all the work spots, workshops, loco sheds, and everywhere. And another thing which has also undergone a minor adjustment has been in the uniforms. See, the traditional uniforms were only trousers, shirts, and all that. And as you would have noticed in the photographs, many of them are now wearing salwar kameez and those kind of Indian dresses, which are equally comfortable and as efficient to work on with, apart from the safety equipment, which is common to all categories of employees. Mr. Raghunandan has made a very interesting point, and he says that my observation is that it is a misnomer to say that railway work was to be done by men. As is usual for works that involved large extents of manual labor, women's work was invisible. Photos of how coal was loaded into locomotives would show how women stood shoulder by with men in performing hard manual labor. But then he raises a question of which I do not have an answer. He says, I wonder back in the day whether they received equal pay for equal work, a constitutional right. I would not be able to say that now. It's too late in the day. Day means in the times. And today, of course, there is no discrimination in salaries as far as the government and the Indian Railways is concerned. One thing, Ragini, I would like to ask you on a personal level. You were the first women officer in a particular service. Did you face any discrimination or any adjustment issues?
Manoj, never at all. I was really lucky that I was welcomed all over. People were extremely nice, and they said, at least I think now the unions will be well behaved. Well, I think that probably was the only discrimination. I didn't get abused by the unions at any point of time. It was very comfortable. I enjoyed my complete tenure on the Indian Railways, and no one ever discriminated. People were very, they gave me whatever assignment I was glad to do, and I enjoyed doing it. And I don't know, and being probably a city-bred person, I didn't ever face, and there was this gentleman against whom I was warned when I was being promoted, that man has a glad eye, you look out. I said, no, don't you worry. I'm used to traveling in DTC buses. So we'll settle that. I'll knock him. So again, what I'm trying to say is that's never an issue. You go ahead, and I've had the best of times, really.
Okay. But in your tenure as a personal officer in the division and in the headquarters, did you ever come across any case where any lady is complaining of any harassment? And if there was any harassment, what was the action taken?
I've had this chance, it just so happened that this lady who did complain, she was an officer's wife who joined duty after her husband's death. and she was being harassed by her boss. So I took it upon myself. She told me, she said, I feel like putting acid on my face. I said, don't ever think of doing anything like that. You will fight it out. And fortunately for us, just a few years later, that Vishaka judgment came. We were just lucky. I'm telling you, we were fighting. But again, before the Vishaka judgment also, our organization took note of that. And this man was transferred and he was given a charge sheet. Then he said, this Vishaka, in fact, that's his case in court even today, that the Vishaka judgment came later, the railways took action earlier. But sexual harassment is not allowed in any case. So what I'm trying to say is that even before the Vishaka judgment, the railways took cognizance of any sexual harassment in the organization. And everyone, whether it was Group A or Group B, everyone joined hands against this.
Yes.
So I feel very proud of my organization, really feel proud.
Yeah, I think all of us are. In fact, we love the railways even after retirement. That's why we are still sitting together and talking.
Yes.
I am really grateful that you came and gave such a beautiful presentation. I'm sure the other people who have been part of this event have also enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And I now request Mayank to further take on the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Ragini ma'am. Let me make a break and actually acknowledge I have been fortunate to have been mentored by Ragini ma'am in the course of my. Sir, you would probably need to stop sharing your screen.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Ma'am, could you consider?
Yeah, I'm there.
Stopping. Yeah, ma'am. Right, we have a screen which is being shared, but that's just fine. Ma'am, wonderful to see you once again. And let me just go a step ahead and say that many of us who have been fortunate to have been mentored by Ragini ma'am when we have worked with the railways feel very blessed that we had the opportunity to interact with her. She has truly been an HR person in the true sense of the word. Every time we met her, it was a learning experience for us on how to take things forward, how to get work done without necessarily ruffling feathers. I think we all grew when we worked with you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. You're being very generous.
I'm merely being accurate, ma'am. And I speak for many, many of us when I say all of this. We draw to a close of today's session. May I request the president of the society, Mr. Vinu Mathur, to make some closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Mayank. I think today has been we've had a very full day and some wonderful presentations. Practically every presentation was very, very absorbing. We started with Warren Miller this morning, and he took us through a journey through refreshment rooms and restaurants at Budapest, Istanbul, Gare de Lyon, and at smaller stations all over the world. It was indeed a fascinating talk. Thereafter, Aparna Garg talked about how she has transformed the museum at Mysore. I had myself visited the museum about 4 years back when I went on a South India trip. It has some wonderful exhibits, and if you can attract young people and elderly people to these museums, it is a very great achievement. So we thank her for a wonderful presentation, not only the museum, but that restoration of the station based on Malgudi days. I'd like to thank Samit Chaudhary for a wonderful presentation on mapping the railways. It has been a very unique exercise indeed. And I wonder why Indian Railways doesn't make more use of him, because Indian Railways does produce a large number of maps of divisions and zones and the Indian railway system. I'd like to thank Paul Whittle for a wonderful journey through the heritage steam routes of the United Kingdom. It was indeed fascinating how they can run such a large network purely on a voluntary basis and totally privately funded. And that is something, that model, I think India needs to learn. We are talking about privatization in India, and some of the first lines that should be taken up are these tourist lines in India. It will not only ensure better maintenance and upkeep, it will ensure a larger number of tourists using them. Ian Thompson's talk on the nitrate railways of Chile was really fascinating indeed. Imagine a Garrett landing up on the seashore of Chile. And the thought that went through my mind during his talk was that railway the victim of climate change? If a railway could have survived for 70, 80 years, why should it get washed away in a rainstorm? Raghu's talk was again really fascinating, of how he has constantly upgraded his own skills and has come out with such wonderful rail models, the DHR model, and now this elephant poop YYG, which he has produced. My compliments to him for his wonderful workshop. He took us around, and the wonderful premises that he stays in. Stephen Cosey's talk on restoration of a steam locomotive in Colombia was again really, really great. We in India for restoration go to one particular workshop in southern India called the Golden Rock Workshop. There, a handful of 8 trained men did it. Probably in Golden Rock Workshop also, there are probably 8 to 10 people who are really experts at it. But a fascinating a journey through restoration of a locomotive in a record time. And last but not the least, Ragini Yechury, thank you very much for a wonderful talk on the role of women in India, how their role has been constantly changing. They are taking on greater responsibility and are making a very positive contribution to the Indian railways in India in all spheres, whether you are a locomotive driver, or whether you are a points woman, or a station master, station mistress. I don't know what the correct terminology is. So thank you very much and I'd like to thank all the participants, many of whom have stuck it out till this late hour. So thank you all, and we look forward to meeting all of you tomorrow morning. We meet at 12 o'clock Indian Standard Time, and we have a full day again tomorrow, and should have some very interesting and fascinating talks. Thank you once again. May I end the meeting for all?
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much.